Blessings, everyone.
Peace and blessings.
Love and light to you all. I was talking to my staff about them planning this, which I thank them very much. They said that they were planning to do this for a while, and I said, unfortunately, all you have to do is wait a couple days, no matter when you're trying to do it. Sadly, it will be an appropriate time. I've been standing at vigils like this after tragedies like these for decades. Too many times I've stood with so many of you begging for peace, praying for better, hoping for change. It doesn't get any easier. Each time I stand up here, each time I hear about another child, another neighbor, another victim to this endless and gutting pain, it hurts like it did the very first time. Maybe that's a good thing. The gun lobby, the NRA, Republican politicians, they want us to grow numb to this constant pain. But for me, and I'm sure for so many of you, each tragedy only reopens a wound that never fully heals. So if anything, it's getting harder. Just a few months ago, my wife and I were lucky enough to welcome a daughter into the world. I want this world to be everything she deserves. Everything all our children deserve. But I see the harsh realities around us. And like so many of you, I'm concerned, I'm worried, and if we're honest, scared. Our children are dying because of systems they didn't create and decisions that they didn't make. It's devastating. It's painful in a new and deeper way each time. The trauma we all have from carrying around all of this pain, it's not healthy. And honestly, I'm tired of being sad. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. I am not okay. I haven't been okay for a while. And I think if most of us are honest, most of us would say the same. I'm not okay because I feel the pain of all these recent deaths. The deaths even of people I went to high school with. I see these children dying. Too often they look like mine. And the community's mourning look like mine. Our community is facing so much violence on all sides. And I know I don't feel that pain alone. This is trauma that is not new, that is always a part of our lives and our very existence. We are not okay today. It's a wartime wound that intensifies when we hear about our children shot dead at a school, our neighbors killed at the supermarket, our neighbors killed in church. And again, nothing really changes. The fake pro-lifers who pretend they care about life when they really want to control a woman's body, but do nothing when people are being slaughtered. Your thoughts and prayers are completely worthless. Keep them to yourself. The one thing I have to say is we must remain energized. It is time to be angry. It's time to come together and continue to fight back. In the darkest night, and we seem to be very close to that, the stars shine the brightest. So let's continue to use our pain and our anger to be the light in that darkness. I'm demanding more. I'm demanding better. For me, for you, for my children, and for your children. We have to give them better than where we are right now. If folks don't know, last year, more Americans died by gun violence than any time in recorded history. Gun violence is now the number one reason for death among young people in our country. We are 4% of the world's population, and over 50% of all civilian guns are in our country. I remember having to argue with Tucker Carlson on Fox News, who was trying to tell me that guns had nothing to do with gun violence. The leaders of the willfully ignorant keep spewing bullshit while people are dying, or people are literally dying. A Congress member talked about maybe we should have one entranceway back and forth in schools. That was his answer to gun violence. They will say the dumbest thing so they don't have to talk about guns and war machines that are being given to civilians while our people are dying. But we have to turn the pain and purpose into action. We must. People are being slaughtered daily. We need a city budget that addresses this trauma and this unending cycle. We have to deal with the demand of violence. Hopefully our Congress will act, but if they don't, we know that we have to get people to understand that they do not have to pick up the gun if they are angry, if they are sad. And that is where our localities can do so much to stop folks from picking up that gun and from using it. We need healing-centered schools. We need youth employment and investments in the access to mental health care, schools and good jobs and nutritious food that helps keep us safe. We can't just invest in more and more and more law enforcement. There can't be endless money for law enforcement and nothing for our children and our communities. I want to be clear. We understand that our law enforcement have a role to play. We want them to do with accountability and transparency. But taxpayers deserve to have a law enforcement that responds when they call. But they also deserve to have every agency provide the services that they need and have not gotten for years. The answer cannot be to arrest black and brown children of the black and brown people we arrested 10 and 20 years ago. We tried that already. It didn't solve the problem. More guns and simply more officers will not solve our national gun violence problem. We have seen spaces where those things were there and people were still slaughtered. So please don't misconstrue anything I ever say. You do not have a right to shoot an 11-year-old child in the stomach, to shoot a man in the subway. You don't have a right to do that. A 12-year-old boy in Brooklyn, that is nothing I say is an excuse to cause that trauma and pain. There has to be consequences and accountability for those actions. All we are saying is that for years we've spent all of the money on the consequences and the accountability. Let's spend some of it on preventing it from happening in the first place. Please. 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 I have been a leading voice on gun violence for over a decade. I put out my first report in 2012. I'm glad that leaders are now talking about things that I've been talking about 10 years ago. I wished you had joined us 10 years ago. Maybe we'd be further along. The way we've been responding hasn't been working. We also need compensation for victims of gun violence and assistance for victims of gun violence. We need stronger red flag laws, something that I talked about in January. If the state had responded, that person that mowed down our elders in Buffalo might not have done that. And by the way, if you are 18 and committing a hate crime against black folks, you're a teenager. If you're 18 named Michael Brown receiving police violence, you are a man. That is something that we have to talk about and is a huge concern as well. We can't just listen to these victims when it's convenient for politicians to push their own agendas. We have to support them and give them the services that they need. Our state can do more, and we must do more. And we have to do it when the cameras aren't there and when it's not just election time. We have to do it all of the time. And we need Congress to get its act together. It is unconscionable that they've done nothing to make this better. Gun trafficking is a problem. We spend so much time on the street level when people are bringing guns into our community. I want to make something clear. Every single illegal gun in our streets was legal at some point. The problem is the legal access to guns and war machines because of our demonic obsession with guns in our country. That is the problem. The access to unfettered guns. Everything looks different in other nations without guns. Suicide looks different without guns. Domestic violence looks different without guns. Hate looks different without guns. Anger looks different without guns. All of these things are more deadly and are more violent when guns are involved. To our Republicans, and I'm going to be clear, our Democrats haven't done enough. I want to not act like they have been stalwarts here. But it is the Republican Party that is putting up the biggest blockade. Governor Abbott is allowing the NRA to have their function in Texas after this occurred. We are suffering from the biggest ad campaign we have ever seen. Gun sales were down many, many decades ago. I don't know if people understand that. They very intentionally linked having a gun with being American. And we fell for it hook, line, and sinker. We now think that having a gun is more American than our right to vote, especially if you want to vote while black. That's what we think right now. Imagine if Republicans cared about voting rights as much as they do about access to unfettered guns in our country. We have to deal with instituting universal background checks. We have to ban assault weapons, period. We have to stop dealers who lose 4 and 5 guns a month that end up into our streets. This is not about the Second Amendment. This is about war machines that are in our communities. We need these things, and we need them now. We brought folks together to have a space to heal and a space to talk about they're not okay. But we want to uplift the action that is needed by politicians who care more about getting elected. People are dying because somebody wants to get elected. Can you imagine that? Your seed is worth those children that were killed, those elders that were killed. Your seat is worth all of that. The state legislative session is almost over. The Senate went away on vacation hours ago. Where is the urgency for all the people who will come before the cameras? Where is the urgency to deal with this and deal with it now? Because we all know that it's just a matter of days, maybe hours, before the next one happens. And then thoughts and prayers, and then rinse and repeat. Over time, we've learned not to expect change. We've been let down and we've been lied to. It makes it easy to feel defeated. But we cannot be deterred. Because 19 more kids in Texas, 10 more people in Buffalo, 1 more young girl in the Bronx, 1 young man in Brooklyn are relying on us to keep on fighting through the pain, through the anger. Keep on fighting. Remember the people that are dying, and in their memories, keep fighting for the simplest of things, which is civilians should not have war machines to kill other civilians. We've come to expect inadequacy. We've come to expect inaction. We've come to expect thoughts and prayers from the thoughtless. I'm expecting action. I'm expecting change. And you should too. Expect it and demand it. All over this city, all over this state, all over this country, demand change. And put people in office who understands that the seat that they hold is not more important than the people they represent and the people who are dying. We have to work toward this. We have to make change. These mass shootings are occurring with increased frequency. And in between those mass shootings, people are dying, primarily black and brown people in black and brown communities. We have to lift them up as well. New Yorkers, are y'all still with me? Yeah. Everybody say, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Everybody say, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. But say, I'm still here. I'm still here. Say, I'm still here. I'm still here. Say, I will fight. I will fight. I will keep fighting. I will keep fighting. Until we get the change. Until we get the change. Until we get the change. That not only we deserve, but the people who died did. Peace and blessings. Love and light to you all.